Joined by Peyton Jot. Yay. SEC huge weekend, man.
Yeah.
Now we're getting down to the nitty gritty. Can't believe there's only 4 conference weekends left, and this is a monster weekend. We got two. I think you could argue maybe the 2 best series of the year this weekend, with Texas A&M going to Texas, taking on their former coach Slosh, who left. Shocked them, spurned them after taking them to Aggies to the national championship series to go to their arch rival, Texas. The moment since that's happened, people have had this series in Austin triple starred. And so it was already filled with drama. And then you look at the baseball. Texas, number 1 in the country, 16-2 in the SEC. Who does that? And then the Texas A&M Aggies, to me, the other top story of the Southeastern Conference. I mean, they were 1-9 like 2 weeks ago in SEC. Now they're 8-10. They won series at Tennessee, at Arkansas. They swept South Carolina. They're red hot. Man, so many storylines to break down with this series in Austin. What do you think? How do you think it's going to go?
Yeah, man, I'm so excited for this weekend. I wish I could be there. It'd be so much fun. Actually, playing at UT is one of the coolest stadiums I've played in. It's a lot of fun. So I can't imagine what it's going to be like this week. And just the hatred. I guarantee you A&M fans are traveling like crazy to come to this game. So it's going to be so much fun. UT obviously super hot. A&M starting to catch some juice. They're getting alive again. They're starting to get going. It's going to be so much fun. I think A&M takes it. I
do too. I'm going 2 out of 3 Aggies. I just think they're freaking so hot right now. And Jay Slavalette, who's going to be possibly the number 1 pick of the draft, hit 4 bombs at Arkansas last week. And I think Texas is a great team, but you got to lose at some point. There's just no way.
No, I agree. And I'm obviously they're super, super talented. I watched their game against Texas State just a couple of days ago. It's amazing how well Texas State has done against them. But my point was UT was down a couple 4 runs maybe in the 8th or 7th. And I mean, they can hit, they can pitch, they can do it all. So this team's really good. We've talked a lot about Slosh and how good he is. So not really surprised. Maybe surprised to be number 1 in the country already, his first year. But not surprised that UT is a good baseball club.
No doubt. And his first year at A&M, he got him to the Final Four, because that's this transfer portal world we live in. It's just different now, where you don't really have to do that 2 or 3 year build anymore, especially if you're Texas and you've got unlimited money.
Seriously.
But look at this series.
Money, you think?
What's up?
Who's got more money, UT or A&M?
Oh, I know A&M got real pissed off after Sloss left, and they threw down just mega bucks to keep that roster together. I think A&M spent more this year. I heard A&M spent a ton.
Yeah, because I know they were doing some big renovations, and then I don't know. So we'll see. I don't know. I was curious.
Yeah, well, the big thing for me is what's Jared Spencer's status, the Texas Ace Friday lefty, because he got hurt and left with an injury early, and the bullpen bailed him out in the Friday night game when Texas swept Auburn last week. So that's something to watch for on Friday. Prager's going to go for A&M. Really impressed by A&M closer Weston Voss, who really pitched awesome against Arkansas. And just A&M, they got all their bats back. Caden Sorrell was hurt for a while. Caden Kent's hitting it. Jay Slavalette, they got they're just really good. And yeah. I think, when you look at baseball, you see A&M 8-10 in the SEC, but I think you could make a legitimate argument these are 2 of the 5 teams that have a good chance to win the national title.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think we always knew Jace was going to come around to his swing and finally turn it on like he has been. And that's what you need for a guy that's he's pretty much the backbone, at least of the offense. And once you get him going, everybody knows baseball is all momentum. Just like it was in 2022 for the Rebs. If they get hot, seriously, who knows what can happen to this team?
That was my comparison when I took that A&M 50-1 futures bet. Now I'm seeing 15 or 20-1 everywhere.
That's crazy.
So that's going to be a fun storyline to follow in the tournament, because A&M definitely in the tournament now might even be a 2 seed at this point, and who knows with the way it's going, where they're going to end up. The other headlining series is a monster too. Tennessee heads to Baton Rouge, take on LSU. They're both 12-6 in the SEC. Definitely 2 of the top teams in America. Seen some flaws from both lately. Tennessee, a little surprising them losing 2 out of 3 home to Kentucky. The Bats really got shut down Saturday and Sunday. But I actually kind of think Kentucky might be kind of good. So I'm not totally going to put that as a knock on Tennessee. I think Kentucky's improving. But, the atmosphere, I mean, these fan bases freaking just hate each other.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's the two most toxic fan bases in America, in my opinion, Tennessee and LSU. I mean, and so anytime you get these two together, it's inevitable that the fur is going to fly. How do you see this series going down to Baton Rouge?
Yeah, obviously two of maybe the top three best teams in the SEC. If you put Arkansas in there right now, both teams have shown that they can be beatable. I don't necessarily like Tennessee coming off of a series loss to Kentucky because that makes me feel like they're going to come back and win this one. But I do think just give me Alex Box. If you give me Alex Box on a Friday night, I think that's what's going to help this team win. So I'm going LSU.
I wonder, what do you think the tougher ticket to get in is? Tennessee, I guess it's got to be A&M Texas. But Tennessee LSU is going to be sold out, dude.
Yeah, I can't imagine. We should have looked up those ticket prices. Like UT A&M, I bet it's unreal, man. It's got to be sold out.
I'm going LSU 2 out of 3 too. I know they had a 20-game home winning streak snapped on Saturday by Alabama. Then they had like a super weird midweek. They got run ruled at home by Northwestern State.
They had some weird midweek this year.
But I never put too much stock in the midweek games. No. That stuff happens. I'm sure you know more playing that these weekend series, everything's geared to these conference series. And I feel like getting up emotionally for these Tuesdays coming off big weekends is like a little weird.
It's hard. You're right. Like physically it's demanding to just be able to play that many games all in a week. But also like mentally it's way more. You don't wake up on Thursday sitting there thinking, oh, we got to play Alabama State on Tuesday. Like you're only worried about that weekend and you have a great weekend. It's just like, I don't want to say a breath of fresh air, but it's like you're just drained. So then you got to turn around and play again. It's tough because that's always whoever that midweek team is you're playing, unless it's like the Governor's Cup, if it's something where two rival teams are playing against each other. It's only that midweek team's World Series. Like LSU.
Yeah, that's why I always bet on the midweek underdog, just precisely because of that. That's one of my big gambling strategies on DraftKings is like especially the good G5 teams. Yeah. Those wins are so big for their resumes when they're playing in weaker conferences. And you'll often see coaches use way more of the top ends of their pitching staff. Whereas, all the Power 5, the SEC teams are throwing their number 4 or 5 starters.
Yeah, it's Johnny
Holstaff relievers.
Yeah, Johnny Holstaff the whole game. A lot of guys are coming in that aren't playing, or you're giving your couple guys a day off and stuff like that. But then all of a sudden you look up and it's 10-0, and you're like, what just happened? So now all of a sudden you try to, because the part of it too though is like if you lose to too many of those midweek games, like that kills your RPI too. So
especially if you lose them to teams that are bad, like when you lose to teams that are, if you lose to like the good G5 teams or top 50, it doesn't matter too much. But man, when you lose, like Ole Miss had a really bad loss to Arkansas Little Rock last week, for example, and that doesn't help anybody.
No, but I tell you what, winning against State, that crushes.
Oh yeah. We're gonna get to the Rebs here. We'll go ahead and jump into that one because this is this is such a huge weekend with the two headliners, A&M and Texas, but you got a couple other big series too, as you always do in the SEC. And this Vandy Ole Miss series is serious, dude. Vandy quietly. Swept Georgia last weekend. Their RPI's up to number 4. Yeah. They go into Swayze this weekend. Vandy's red hot. Ole Miss had just a terrible stretch last week, but got to give them credit. That's part of baseball. They responded. They lost to Arkansas Little Rock Tuesday and then lost the first 2 games Thursday, Friday at South Carolina to a team that's been struggling. You never want to say must win in baseball, but you cannot get swept by a team that was 2-13 in the SEC. Ole Miss came out on Saturday and run ruled them. I thought it was a pretty definitive statement. And then you mentioned it. That Governor's Cup game against Mississippi State Tuesday night in Jackson was a classic. State was up 3-0. Ole Miss gets up 5-3. State gets up 7-5. Austin Foley hits a 2-run bomb in the ninth to tie it. And then Will Furness has been clutch all year with the line drive single to win it. And, as far as RPI and stuff goes, it doesn't count as an SEC win on their the conference record, but, I mean, it does count for RPI and stuff at that level. And I think the momentum of this is even bigger because Ole Miss has had a really bad history in that game against Mississippi State in Jackson. And I don't know. I really feel like that win and the South Carolina Saturday win, I think the Rebs got momentum back heading this weekend.
No, that's huge. Kind of like you said, it doesn't count. Like if you look up on when you're watching an SEC game, it's not going to show up on the stats, that win, but that counts just as much as a normal SEC win does, as far as RPI and postseason and stuff like that. Like I remember in 22, we won a game against State in the midweek, which like really helped us out. It was part of the reason we were able to make it to the postseason, was because of those midweek games. So that's like a super important. Obviously, it's just super important for Mississippi. Like those games are just a lot of fun, and I would say historically we haven't been the best in those games. So it was fun to
historically
see them.
Playing State's been a real problem. Even the years Ole Miss is better.
Yeah, it's the truth. I don't know what it is. It's the truth. They've been better than us recently, so it's fair to say that that was huge for us to win that game. Going on to this weekend, Vandy, I mean, I tell you what, they have clicked. They have turned a corner, number 9 in the country now. They look really good. So
they can pitch too. They got. I feel like Vandy, they just got unlimited guys to throw 98. It just never ends.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. Everybody they bring out there with 97.
Well, that's kind of what we had said in the beginning of the year was like, we know their pitching staff's good. That's just how Vandy is. Can they hit? In the beginning, it wasn't looking like it. And now it's kind of like, whoa, wait a second, what's going on with this team? So I'm going to say the same thing I've been saying. If we can win that Friday game, it's huge for us. I just feel like Ole Miss has been so close to winning those series that we lose, besides last weekend. So close to winning the series. A couple balls fall your way and you're back in it, and we look like a whole different ball club. I still think we're really good, but
I got a question for you now that you're out of it, and so you can analyze it. All right. Hunter Elliott had a great start to the year. He's kind of been struggling lately. He's been it feels like he's struggling to get through 5 innings. I mean, he's not pitching terrible. It's always like he allows 3 or 4 runs, they stay in the game. But what do you think is going on there? Do you think his arm's getting tired? It seems like, I mean, he's been having some control issues. I don't know. I certainly think the world of him, but he hadn't pitched the best last.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think if you asked him, he would say he wants to be better than he is right now. So I don't think that's like a jab at him. If anything, it's a compliment because we think he should be better than he is doing, because we know he is. I don't think anything is like wrong with him. He's had some issues with command in the past, just like in general. That was kind of been his. If he had a flaw, that was his flaw. Because if you look at probably, I don't have his exact stats, and I don't know if you could even look this up.
I know he has a 4.04 ERA. That's all.
Yeah, but I was gonna if you could find his whip rate on a fastball in the zone. Like I bet you it's tremendously good. And it's just the fact that we're not able to get to the 5th inning because we're having to pitch so many pitches before we can get there. So it's like instead of worrying about how many runs we give up, let's worry about how many walks we give up first. Then hopefully we can turn around. Because his stuff, just looking at the metrics of it, he's really good.
No, I want to ask. Okay, there's the Twitter fan base is up in arms on this Mason Morris situation.
Yeah,
he's emerged. I mean, he's thrown his last 12 SEC innings, allowed no runs, but he comes in the same spot every Friday when Ole Miss has been down, and he's been pitching like 4 or 5 innings, closing games out.
Yeah,
and the fans are going crazy about like, will he ever come in a game they're leading, or could he start, or just how he's being used. And I love having a stopper reliever on Friday night. I mean, I think he's obviously, I'm sure Coach Bianco's thinking, I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The dude's going in there in the Friday night highest leverage games and getting 4 or 5 innings.
But like,
I'm just curious, what do you think? What do you think about it?
I think the question, like everybody is wondering, is if he's so good right now, why can't we just have him start? And I talked to some people. I talked to a coach about this. And I think the biggest thing is like, you trust your starters that you have. So you've got Hunter, who in the back of your head, he's Hunter Elliott. No matter what, if he's struggling right now, I mean, if this is him struggling, then we'll take it. Like, we know he's doing.
And even when he's been struggling, it hadn't been that bad.
That's it just, like,
it's a lot of like 3, he's allowing 3 or 4 runs. I mean, he's not allowing 8.
No, like he's obviously really good. And so if that's what we're dealing with, that's great. And then from there, you just trust that your starters are going to be able to extend the game, and hopefully our offense will score a couple runs. So having somebody like Mason Morris, who's been dominant, that can throw Friday, Saturday, or Sunday in those jams. I think that's why they like them so much there, is because there's just so much versatility of where you throw them and when you throw them. You would hope the way it would go is like Friday, Elliott can go to maybe stretch it out to 6, 7 innings, and then you can just give it off to Braden Jones or whoever's going to be that closer. Just extend them those 3, and then you got Mason Morris for Saturday or Sunday when we get into a jam. It hasn't worked out that way just because we've needed him on Friday. And it's interesting too, because pitchers, like, there's guys that throw better out of the pen versus starts. If you put,
especially if you're like trained to throw out of the pen.
Exactly.
I would think, because like he didn't go into this year thinking he'd ever start, so his arm's not like used to everything that goes with.
Like mentally, it's not nowhere near the same. I never obviously been a pitcher. I could throw the ball maybe 75 miles an hour, but like if I were to come out of the pen, it would be harder for me mentally to be always. You have to be checked in at all times, ready to go. Where like if you're a starter, you're throwing Friday and then you're good. Also, like starters versus relievers pitch differently in general. Like starters are going to throw more fastballs. You kind of have to, because you have to get ahead and try to extend as much as you can. Whereas relievers, Mason Morris has a really good fastball. He's up to like 97, 98 and some good run on it. But his off-speed pitches are what's really, really good too. If you were to start, he would be throwing more fastballs than he is his off-speed pitches. So who knows if it's even the same. That's kind of a lot. And I don't know what the thought is.
No, I just think it's interesting because I don't know the solution to it. But the fan base is just like, he's burned 3 unbelievable outings and losses. And so
no, I get that. And it's just like it hasn't gone the way we wanted to. But I said this in the very beginning. I said, watch out for Mason Morris, because I knew he was going to be a dog. I don't know. We'll see what they do. I don't think anything's going to change within the rotation.
I still feel good about the Rebs overall. I know they're 10-8 in SEC, but like, I think I don't think there's any reason to panic over anything.
No.
Winning 2 out of 3 at home against Vandy. If they go 3-1 this week against Mississippi State and Vandy, that would erase last week, because right now their RPI is like 18, 19. Yeah. And the whole key now is, man, if you can get in that top 16 and host a regional, certainly that would be big. A couple of series starting Thursday night. This is another good one in Athens, Georgia. Number 14 Oklahoma against number 10 Georgia. I know you and I were eating crow early in the year because we both kind of said Georgia's not going to be as good as their hype. The last few weeks they haven't. They've really been struggling. The last few weeks they got swept at Texas. They got swept at Vandy. They did win 2 out of 3 at home against Arkansas. This is an interesting series, though, because Oklahoma has held their own in the SEC so far. They're 10-8. They've got a really deep pitching staff. They've kind of struggled some in midweek games and not throwing their good pitchers. And then Georgia has had a rough stretch. Granted, it's against great teams. They got swept at Vandy and they got shut out 3-0 at Clemson, who's top 6 on Tuesday night. But all of a sudden, they've lost 4 in a row. I think this Thursday night game, I took Oklahoma plus 190. I just think that's a crazy line because Oklahoma's got throwing their ace pitcher, Witherspoon. Yeah. The over-under is 11.5. But I just thought, like, Georgia should be favored, but, like, not minus 230.
I think that's totally fair. I think if you're going to have Oklahoma in any game, it should be today. I think that's probably the best chance you have, in my opinion. Obviously, both of these teams have done better than I expected them to do. Oklahoma has been pretty good in the Big 12. Obviously. Yeah,
well, they were 23-7 in the Big 12 last year. They were, obviously y'all beat them in the national championship in 2022. Skip Johnson's hell of a coach.
Yeah.
And it's impressive. Everybody was wondering, how will they transfer to the SEC? But they got that big-time pitching staff, and that's the whole key to these weekends.
Yeah.
So they got
I do think I'm still going Georgia overall on the weekend.
I think Oklahoma wins game 1 maybe, and
Georgia wins 2. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. If there's a game that they do win, this would probably be the best one.
A couple other series to hit on. South Carolina at Kentucky. I want to ask you, like I said, I'm sort of kind of buying in on this Kentucky bunch. I'm choosing to believe that they're improving.
Yeah.
And, and that was more of them getting better than an indictment of Tennessee last weekend. And, they play such a different style of ball than all the rest of the SEC teams. They take all these Ohio and Indiana kids that are used to playing in that northern cold weather. It's all transfers. They play small ball. It's a whole different deal. But it kind of works because it's different. And Nick Mangione, somehow had them as the number 2 national seed last year. We thought they'd take a step back this year, and they have. But they're still very competitive. And I mean, I think they win at least 2 out of 3, if not a sweep this weekend.
Yeah, I think they win this weekend. It's interesting with just the way Kentucky plays in Manchione. Just it's a completely different style of game, and you can kind of tell, in my opinion, like he rubs some people wrong with the way he plays or way he.
Yeah, you can see that in that Ole Miss series where the
you can
players
just
are on each other. And
so you can tell, which is fine because it's obviously working for him. And I think he's done really well since he's been at Kentucky. So they're still not exactly like I wouldn't put them in the top tier of the SEC, but they're
an NCAA tournament team, though. I think.
Yeah. I think
earlier on that wasn't a guarantee.
Yeah, I definitely think they take this weekend.
We'll do. We always just like laugh because Missouri plays SEC series every week, but they're 0-18 in the SEC, and Alabama's minus 1,300 in a conference college baseball game tonight. Man, that's God.
Yeah,
I think honestly, it's at a point with Missouri this year that it's a gift from the heavens for every team that has them on their schedule. Because it's so hard to get SEC wins, and being able to get 3 against them boosts it so much. And
I know, like it's hard for like I shouldn't say it's hard. It's horrible for a team like Alabama, who was started off incredibly hot. They're kind of hitting this lull right now. It's horrible that they're about to go into an SEC weekend knowing, hey, at least we got Missouri this weekend. Like we should be.
Yeah, Bama. Look, they did manage. They salvaged that Saturday game, losing 2 out of 3 at LSU. Not that big a deal. They didn't get swept. They're still in line to host, and if they sweep Missouri this week, they'll get it rolling again.
Yeah.
It's very interesting series. I guess it's a little off the radar because the headlining ones, but Arkansas going to Gainesville this weekend. Mm-hmm. I've been seeing some signs of life from Florida here lately. They started 1-11 SEC, but they got a lot of talent. They won 2 out of 3 in Starkville last weekend. They went 2-0 against Florida State midweek. Despite they're 6-12 in the SEC, but they're 28-15 overall. I think they need to get to 12-8. If they need to get to 12-18, is kind of the magic number to make the tourney. But I think we're going to really find out. Are they kind of back this weekend? Do you think they could pull off 2 out of 3 here? I keep going back and forth on Arkansas.
This is going to be my hot take for the weekend. Would be that Florida takes this series. Okay. Arkansas, obviously, unbelievably good. I just think that there's something about this Florida team that like you can never count out ever. We've seen it in the past. Last year they went on this huge run. You're like, what's going on? I'm going to take Florida. Really, off of nothing. I think Arkansas is a better team. But I'm just going for the
and home. Well, it's so hard to win on the road in conference. So I'm gonna back that pick up too. I think Florida's, like I said, they're 1-11 now. They're 6-12. Feels like they're heading toward making a run to getting back in the NCAA tourney and trying to get hot. And we've certainly seen it before. Final series to discuss. Mississippi State heads to Auburn.
Yeah.
Mississippi State has got to have some pressure on them. That Governor's Cup had to hurt them the way that went down. And they're 6-12 in the SEC right now. They did salvage Sunday against Florida. But right now they'd be slightly in on the bubble, but they're smack on the bubble. And they need to get to, like I said, they're 6-12, same as Florida. They got to get to 12 SEC wins here. Yeah. And that Governor's Cup, that could be the one that keeps them out of the tournament. Yeah. Tough task at Auburn, though. This Auburn bunch, I know they got swept at Texas, but I still think they're really good. The thing Auburn's done this year, we knew they could hit. They hit on 2 guys in the transfer portal. And so they got Good Friday and Saturday guys. They're in line to host. And I think they take 2 out of 3 from State.
I do too. And it's just, if you're a State fan, it's got to just feel like all the life just got sucked out of you after yesterday. Like that was your chance to really kind of make a push into this postseason run to beat a ranked top 25 team. And then just from the way that they lost, it's got to be like, well, this is just the way our season's going to go this year. Who knows what's going to happen after this year? But
it's so interesting, though, the Lamonis thing, because like he won the title, and then last year they had a really, he had 2 bad years off the top, but they had a really good year last year. They were 2 seed.
Is like I'm all for hating on Mississippi State, obviously, but you guys, did we already forget that he won y'all a national championship? Like that was only a couple years ago, and I don't know. Everybody's already coming for his head, and it's like, he knows what he's doing. He won a national championship. He did great last year. I get it. Like, you got to be at least competitive afterwards. They really haven't been that competitive. I mean, last year they made a push, but it was kind of out of nowhere. I don't know. I'm not quite on that train yet of like fire him.
I'm not either, and I think a part of the struggles is like Mississippi State has such a rich baseball tradition and history, and best stadium in the country. I think a lot of people think in Duty Noble, but they had a lot of success back when like other schools weren't caring.
Yeah,
That's what's changed in the SEC. Like back in the day, it was like Mississippi State, LSU, and South Carolina. There are a few schools that were like, we're all in on baseball. But then what you've seen over the last few years is everybody's put a big emphasis on it. And so I think that like State fans might be a little delusional because it's not the past anymore.
Yeah, I don't think people quite understand how hard it is to win. And also, like being somebody that's played, whenever you lose, it's not because the coach did something wrong. Like I would, if I don't know, like I think it's way more on the players than it is the coach. So if you're mad at somebody, be mad at the whole team. Like I get it. He's the guy that's like the head coach. He's the one that's running the whole thing, but it's not because he called a bunt play or a first and third play when he shouldn't have that lost the game. It's way more about the players. So I don't know. I'm not on that train to fire him. I'm not. I'm just not somebody that's quick to be like, oh, get him out of here. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you're not wrong here. I mean, who are they going to hire to play? I don't know. I feel like he's a good coach, but I do have them losing the series. They have to salvage one though. They cannot get swept and fall to 16. And so there is some pressure on them.
I think this would be a good series for them to win because Auburn has shown that.
If they win 2 out of 3 here, they'll get some momentum back. I mean, they got to go 6-6. I know Ole Miss goes to Mississippi State, I believe, in the next. I think it's maybe next weekend.
I believe that's right.
And that'll be a spot where State's going to be a must-win. It has to win 2 out of 3. But great weekend SEC baseball. As always, fire on DraftKings. But Texas A&M and Tennessee LSU. I mean, if you like college baseball, I don't see how it can get better than those 2 series. And I can't wait to see what happens at Oxford. NFL draft weekend too. I feel like I'm barely going to leave my apartment.
That's fine. Man, I'm fired up about this weekend. It's a lot of good ball to watch.
Hell yeah. As always, thanks for joining us. Follow Peyton on social media at PeytonChat5. And, only 4 weekends left. Postseason's coming. Best time of year.
That's right. Let's go.